Hello, this is Eileen, the environmental educator, and in this video, we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, and that is electric vehicles. And right now, the question is being asked, are they too heavy? Will they destroy America's roads? And it's not just roads. There's been a lot of attention to parking garages. There's a bunch of articles here. That was Car Buzz. This is the New York Post. Um, this is just the news up here. They ask if the New York garage collapse was the latest reality check for EVs. There's videos out there. This is by Car Coach Reports. And the thing is electric vehicles, they're really very heavy. Right here, look at that. That's 9,000 pounds. And right here, this New York Post article, the battery of a GMC Hummer weighs about 2,900 pounds, roughly the entire weight of a Honda Civic. Okay? And when you scroll down, it says the Audi e-tron SUV weighs about 5,765 pounds, much heavier than the Ford Explorer SUV, which is about 4,345 pounds. But that is still a lot more than cars that used to be. Okay, this article right here in Car Buzz, they talk about parking structures over in Britain, and they say a lot of them were built in the 60s, and yeah, they date back to the 60s right here. And so they were Austin Morris, Ford Cortina, the Mini, but they say the weight of the Mini Mark, which I assume is this Mini right here, it was 1,300 pounds. Okay, but now today the Mini Cooper is 3,144 pounds. And today a Ford E-Mach is at 4,318 pounds. But back in the day, the Cortina weighed, 1,700, 1,690 pounds. So these vehicles are much heavier. Today, the Tesla Model Y is currently the best-selling EV in the UK, and the long-range vehicle weighs 4,363 pounds. Compare that with the best-selling Morris 10 of the 1960s at 1,830 pounds. So yeah, more than double the weight. And the thing is that weight, you know, has consequences to the roads, the bridges that we drive on, your driveways, your parking lots, and, the parking structures that we park in. Roads are complicated business, put together by engineers. Okay, so there's a lot of specifics to them, and they're built for different things. Like some of these articles say that a country road isn't built to the same standards as a city road or a highway, which has so much weight and traffic, as opposed to a country road that there's very very few cars driving on. So let's just look at some of these articles. So this says the 2020 models of the Ford Lightning and Rivian RT battery electric trucks um, weigh between 6,500 and 6,700 pounds. So imagine what's going to happen to our insurance rates too when these cars start getting in accidents. Okay, all that much more force and weight coming at you, your car, your people, at property. This could become astronomical for insurance rates too. So right here it says the Hummer is 9,063 pounds. So these are not the cars of yesteryears. And the roads that were, built long ago, decades ago, were built for A, less traffic, and B, cars that weighed a lot less. So Maria Lehman, the incoming 2023 president of the American Society of Civil Engineers, I told you, engineers do these roads, roads and bridges are designed for a specific lifespan, typically 20 years for roads and 30 to 35 years for bridges. they usually last double that. But she says think about roads as three sets of sponges on top of each other. There's a stone subbase for drainage, then concrete and asphalt with larger stones in it, which can be up to 12 inches thick on certain roads. And then finally a binder like asphalt. So bridges usually use steel or concrete base with a deck on top covered by a wearing surface. And so the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, they set standards of how each road layer is constructed based on the use it will see most often. This regularly considers that commercial trucks will travel roadways carrying tens of thousands of pounds of cargo. Still, it also means that rural two lane is not necessarily designed with the same load capacity as a heavy trafficked urban boulevard. So, they say the roads are designed for, 18 wheelers, which are 35,000 pounds empty and 80,000 pounds loaded. Wow. So, they say how much could a 9,000 pound Hummer truly have? And they say the answer is in lifespan. That Maria Lehman says, as you put more and heavier passenger vehicles on a standard road surface, you're taking life out of it. Maybe it's not going to last 20 years. Maybe it's only going to last 18. And roads are very expensive. So, this means money for the taxpayers, more roads, more. Okay, what town, what city, what state? The U.S. doesn't have money for that. The country itself. Okay, so was any of that taken into consideration when electric vehicles were shoved down our throat? Okay. And then she's a little out there when she says, maybe this is kind of good because then road capacity will be upgraded. Okay. With what money are we upgrading road capacity? Yeah, that's a little silly at the end there. Otherwise, she said some pretty intelligent things. But right here it says, as for your driveway or garage, you might want to be careful where you park your electric Hummer. That same Lehman says driveway standards usually depend on the local municipality, but there's no real oversight. If your truck is sitting on a thin layer of asphalt or concrete, and it's not reinforced, it's going to crack. So then there's been talk about, parking structures, and civil engineer and car park consultant, Chris Wapples, Whapples, said, I don't want to be an alarmist, but there definitely is the potential for some of the early car parks and poor conditions to collapse. Operators need to be aware of electric vehicle weights and get their cars parks assessed from a strength point of view and decide if they need to limit weight. And now he's in a bunch of these articles saying that, but the interesting thing is, okay, this New York Post has the same quote, but it says, that warning came less than 2 weeks before Tuesday's deadly collapse at the New York City parking garage, which reportedly had active violations dating back to 2003. So, yeah, there's some issues with that garage, but, as you said, car parks in poor condition. Okay. So, car parks in poor condition usually can have active violations. So, he made that warning 2 weeks before that accident that we all saw happened in New York. And the UK is having a problem. Back in the 60s, they built roughly $6,000 multi-story car parks scattered across the UK. And, those are aging and they're, when things age, look at that. Yikes, man. Oh, oh boy. And when these garages are aging right there, it says that, these car parks date back to the 1960s. And so with these aging parks, they just, like anything, can, just, yes, under stress of just wear and tear and exceeding weight capacities, very ugly things can happen, and they are kind of happening. So just the news says that parking structure in New York had amassed 64 violations over the last 47 years. So, right, these, just guess what? Our bridges, how many of them are in poor condition? Okay, so it's just a matter of time before the bottom starts falling out of them too. And the weight of electric vehicles, they don't talk about bridges in here, but that is absolutely a big risk and something that really should have been addressed a long time ago before we put these cars on the road. Yeah, and this just the news says, these New York, the garages, were built when cars were much lighter. And so they were built to much different standards, just like bridges, just like roads, just like your driveways. And right here is interesting. They say that um, EVs are causing a problem for car hauling companies, and they have petitioned the government to raise the weight limit on U.S. roads, claiming that electric vehicles often exceed the weight limit the haulers must abide by. So they can't put as many cars, on those trucks that you always see that are carrying cars, that they can't put as many cars on those trucks because the cars weigh more. Okay, so that's going to make it more for you to get your car transported to you, because when those trailers are down one or two cars per load, that increases the price on the rest of the cars on that load. So these electric vehicles, there are a lot of problems. We've discussed just, the electric grid aspect of them, but the roads and our bridges and our parking structures, and then even it is going to seep into insurance rates when electric vehicles, these heavier cars, become involved in more accidents. And then, yeah, just getting them transported to your dealer is now a bigger issue. So, electric vehicles, people, they are not anything near what we need. And the solutions the world needs is not allowed by everyone who's pushing this radical agenda down your throat. Hemp, hemp cars, hemp batteries, hemp fuel. Yeah, that would be a horrible thing, except it would be the solution. And that's why you're not allowed to have it. And instead, we have just endless dangers from ridiculous things that the powers that are imposing on you. So stay tuned, people.